Coming up next, 5 things that you probably didn't know about your Mooer Radar impulse response loader pedal. Stick around. You're listening to the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus, changing rock history one podcast at a time. Hello, everybody. My name is Lou Lombardi. Some people call me Loudini. If you know me from my podcast, the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus, well, that's me. And today I'd like to talk to you about this cool little teeny tiny little box that I picked up a few months ago. I think a lot of people picked one of these up this year. This is the Mooer Radar Impulse Response Loader. This is just I have tons of pedals. You can't see they're all behind me on a shelf. And I've owned tons and tons of pedals and boxes and different kinds of things that were supposed to allow you to not have to use a speaker cabinet over the years, you know, old crap from the 90s, you know, Sans amp type technology and everything. And I was very skeptical. And as you can probably see from behind me here, I'm a hardcore tube amp guy. I've got some serious boutique crap back here, and I have vintage cabinets and all kind of stuff all around this place. And so when somebody says, you know, we are going to create technology and you can get rid of all that and put it in this thing, I'm like, I don't know about that. But anyhow, I thought, well, what the hell, I would try it out. And I did get a little acclimated to the IR thing because I got the 2 Notes software, and I was using that through Reaper, and so I became a little bit of a believer. I'm like, this isn't too bad. This has some potential. So, anyways, I ended up getting this pedal, and was kind of disappointed with it for a while until I made a few changes, until I discovered a few things, which I'm going to talk about in today's video. What I want to do first, though, is I want to plug this back in. Play I mean, it just sounds just really, and if I was to crank up the monitors really loud, it would cause the microphone to feedback, of course. But when you crank up your studio monitors, it's in my opinion indistinguishable from playing through a tube amp with a great cabinet. Now, I'm not even using any of my amps to it right now. I'm using one of the Mooer preamp pedals, the Brown, what's it called? The Brown Sound 3. And I'll do another video on that later, but I don't want to take up too much time. There are 5 things, now here we go, that you absolutely, most of you guys probably don't know or don't realize how important they are to making this thing sound awesome. Because I went from on it to like, a little better, a little better, a little better. And I'll explain it to you here in a second. First of all, I am one of these people, I have no patience at all. I get a piece of gear, the first thing I just want to plug it in, just start playing. You know, so that's what I did. First thing I got the Mooer Radar. First thing I did is I plugged it into my amps with my load box here, and started turning around, you know, turning all the little settings in it and everything. And like I said, I was very on it. Well, here, something that I did not realize that you must do is first thing before you plug it in, even if you're as impulsive of a maniac as I am, please plug it into your computer first with the get a little USB cable. You plug it in and run the firmware update. World of difference. So I went from going and then putting it away for a while to going like, you know what, I should run that firmware. I wonder if that would do anything. So I ran the firmware update. It was like, holy crap, huge difference in the sound. Great improvement. But still, I was kind of on it. So I'm going to give you a little bit more stuff about here. Another thing you want to do, and then I'll explain to you, the big thing with me was a personal situation with me, but I'll explain to you guys a little bit later on. And the other thing, number 2, is turn off the power amps. I've played around with those power amps over and over and over and over, turning them on, turning them off, changing all the settings around, and quite frankly, I just think they detract way more than they add. You're better off, even if you're not using a power amp, if you're using one of the Mooer preamp pedals or something like that, just forget it. Don't even mess with that. You're just going to frustrate yourself. I've tried them all in many combinations. I've spent hours fiddle farting around with the darn thing. I'm trying not to curse. That's against my nature. And I just could not. I couldn't get anything with it. So I would tell you, forget the power amp thing until, unless just some update with that they really able to do something with it. It's just like not necessary. It's not necessary. Once you get this thing working right, you're going to be totally happy with it. Okay, number 3, get the best sound that you can without touching the EQ first. So, in other words, select the cabinet and move the microphones. It allows you to move microphones around. I'm not going to do a whole. This isn't going to be like a big explanation of the pedal or review of the pedal. By the way, if you want to know more about it, Pete Thorne and tons of guys have done reviews on it, and you can go if you want to know exactly how it works. They can teach you how to do that. But what was I saying? I had to write notes. This is what happens when you get old. Get the best sound that you can before you start messing around with the EQs. Again, it's the kind of thing where you'll confuse yourself. So get as close as you can, and then maybe pop an EQ on to make a little tweak. If you're trying to overcompensate and really kind of get the sound with the EQ, then refer to the other items on the list here. Now here's something that I did with mine. I ended up just globally doing this with my system here. My interface comes with a really kind of cool on-screen mixer. It's a Tascam. Yours will work the same way. And there's EQ on each channel. Just to my ears, and I would just make the suggestion to you, is notch down 450 hertz. Just pull down 450 hertz. That's the only EQ I have on this thing. It's not really adding anything. It's actually just taking out a little 450. You could do it on the Mooer. On the EQ is plenty to do, but I found that every preset I played with, I was reaching for that 450 to pull it down. I'm like, well, just turn off the EQ and just pull it down on here. So if you're using it with a mixer or something, just find your 450 or somewhere around there and pull that down. And it's just, I'm not, unless you like that big kind of thick, uber creamy kind of low mud type sound, that Sweet Child of Mine type, fuzzy, thick kind of thing. Unless you're absolutely in love with that sort of thing, I think for the most part, 450, just notch that down a bit to taste and just leave that on globally. And I just found that no matter what cabinet I used, in fact, these are, I'm not even using, I bought a bunch of IRs off of Own Hammer, and I haven't even used them yet, because once I got this thing working the way I wanted to, I'm absolutely, I've just been using this one rectifier 412, and everything, all my guitars, whatever I plug into, it sounds freaking awesome. Okay, now this was the thing that was really tripping me up, and I suspect that some of the YouTubers that are using this thing may be having some of the problems. Check your settings in your DAW, in your computer system, and check to make sure that your interface is current, because it may not be giving you all the digital audio information. What happened to me was, in the process of having this thing and messing around with it, the interface that I was using, I just got to a point where I had to switch it for reasons I won't get into here, but it got to a point where I have to switch my interface. I can no longer use the interface I was using. It was pretty old, like early 2000s. So I switched. I got an interface that's just, very, very current, made within the last couple of years. And oh my God, just cowabunga, dude. Okay, I'm showing my age in Simpsons reference, but just like that completely turned the whole thing around to where I had I got rid of the power amps. I got rid of the confusion with using the EQ. I got the 450 out of there, and with the great interface that's really transferring all the information, all the audio information, it sounds like an amp. It really, I'm completely blown away, because I'm so married to this heavy, hot, hard to service type gear, is now all in this little thing. It's really blowing my mind. So if some of the people out there that were criticizing this thing, you might want to look at your settings and make sure that you have whatever's going on with your workstation, with your interface, that everything is current. And as our bonus thing, number 6, that was number 5. A sort of bonus one would be to if your interface has a specific connector for instrument, that will sound even better. It's going to sound even richer and fuller and more like what you want to hear when you're playing through an amp. So those are my 5 plus bonus things you may not know or may not realize about the Mooer Radar. Just if you want that great amp tone in a way that you can play it like a whisper, because right now it's like in the room here, it's like barely loud. If you want that great amp tone that you can play at a whisper, you can get a great sound directly into your workstation for recording, for practice, whatever, with no fuss, no muss, then you must get, I would highly recommend that you get this Mooer Radar and follow the tips that I just outlined. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out. My name is Lou Lombardi, a.k.a. Loudini. There's some links below. You can check out our podcast at LoudiniRockandRollCircus.com. We got links to Patreon and a bunch of stuff down here. So thanks for hanging out, and I'll catch you guys all on the next Loudini Rock and Roll Circus Rock and Rant.